Hey folks, welcome to Croham Hurst in South Croydon for today's walk and talk. This is an amazing site. It's actually a site of special scientific interest. And we're going to follow one of the paths on the map that's on the board just here. I'm going to walk over the very top, so climb up the hill. There's some open land at the top, a lot of interesting history and geology up there. And then we're going to kind of make our way down slightly and take a different path, routing back around to where we started. So a nice loop. And the mapping is great. There's a number of different options that you can take, but we're going to have some fun and explore Croham Hurst. Now, just before we go, someone pointed out to me that there was a drinking fountain here. You can just about make out the paved area just in front of me. And I found an old Victorian postcard showing said drinking fountain. The sign is different. Obviously, it's a much newer one now. And this is on the junction with Bankside and Croham Manor Road, that sort of area. Anyway, without further ado, let's get climbing and enjoy Croham Hurst in the autumn sunshine. We are starting, as it says, you are here, and we're going to make our route 149 all the way along, and then we're going to sort of turn around and come back 148 and then back to where we started. Breakneck Hill people talk about, that's pretty steep. I'm not looking to either go up it or come down it, but I will point it out. And we've got the Bronze Age round barrow that we'll also cover as well. There's a chalk pit which we probably won't see much of. We'll see how that goes. And what we immediately see up here are disused sand pits, and they'll be quite obvious when we see them. There was also in this area, according to an old map, some lavatories here. Probably in this area, somewhere like that. If I put the map on top, I'll point it out. And although I've mentioned one drinking fountain, there was another one on the other side. So basically, the walk starts here, and we're going to climb up the hill. Graham's accompanying me today, but he may or may not be in camera, depending on how things work out, if I catch him or not. But it's a stunning day. Now, I'm going to point out quite early these pebbles on the ground, because they're very much part of the story, the geological story of erosion, of the stones being washed down and then kind of landing against trees, forming piles, that kind of thing. So we'll talk about that as we go, but it's really quite a beautiful autumn morning here. And the aim was to get that view where there's many leaves on the trees changing colour and a few to splash through on the ground, and just enjoy one of the assets that Croydon has that's been here for thousands of years. Just to point out that although this area isn't Breakneck Hill, it's a reasonably steady climb, shall we say. But actually at the very top of the picture there, where the sun's poking through, pretty much flattens out there. And we can get another view of one of the original sand pits. Nesting box up in the tree there. A lot of wonderful mature oak and sycamore, beech, silver birch, and some tree types populate certain areas of the landscape and take advantage of whatever types of soil more than others. So yes, Mesolithic times this goes back to, between 5000 and 3000 BC. And there's something to point out when we get to the top about that. And I'll also cover the more recent stories about it. And in there I'm talking about the last sort of 130 odd years or so. Slowly let the camera adjust to the light levels here. Follow the path round. I had wanted to try and get out a bit earlier to capture this at first light, but we had cloud cover then, so that's something perhaps for another day. And it's not a dense woodland, which you'll probably see that, and we see evidence throughout the walk, but many years ago people came here to fell trees for firewood. When the railways came and coal was delivered, the whole pattern changed somewhat. So got a Croydon parish marker here. 1901 was really when it became public. There's a number of these markers dotted around. I'll just have a little wander over here to this. Well, it's a bit like a gorge really, but it's one of the disused sandpits. So lift the camera up a bit higher and you can sort of see how it cuts in there, or how it has been cut away. Not used in earnest for a long time. Now, back to nature. And as we come up here, we got the first main opening. And as I say, throughout, we will see these pebbles on the ground. And there's some ferns in there. They pick up the light quite easily this time of the year when it's that little bit lower, it's a lower arc. There's some benches dotted around, you can sit down and have a bit of personal time, fresh air, reflection, contemplation. So from this top area here, this plateau, you can take paths in, obviously in different directions. Quite a bit of heather growing on here, heather and gorse. And I'm going to get you to answer a question in the comments. In a gorse flower, what do they smell of? What does a gorse flower smell of? Anyway, answers in the comments. So straight ahead is the kind of Elmfield Way, Sanderstead area. That's a reasonable view, and there's a slightly better view in the next bit that we move on to, so we'll go there and capture that in a bit more depth and a bit more zooming. So even though that was steep-ish back there, I wouldn't have called it a major challenge. You just have to watch your footing. There are a lot of tree roots. I guess the pebbles could get very slippery in both rain and ice, so always watch yourself. Bring along a walking pole or two maybe, or a thumbstick. Anyway, something like that should you need it. But it's not a huge climb, and there are more gentle options to get up to the kind of spine at the top of the Hurst here. What a fantastic oak tree. You see that's been, I don't know if that's been controlled over the years to only have a short trunk and then just branch outwards, because often you'd still see that kind of affair from a much taller oak, or it could just be the variety. But what a lovely tree. Each leaf looks like it's got its own little light attached to it. Amazing. So the whole area here covers 35 hectares, and at the very top where we are now, it's 145 metres above sea level. And the hill is formed of thanate sand, which actually makes up the greater part of this Hurst. And what happened is that over time, the pebble bed has eroded. A natural sort of cement has formed, binding the Blackheath pebble beds into a conglomerate, or what they call pudding stone, at the top of the Hurst. So it makes it like a cement-like solid structure, which is where we are now. Each part of the geology of the area lends itself to different flora and fauna, and I think because of this more thin nature to the tree layout, It means you can kind of roam freely to your own pleasure, really. Lovely view through there. Just the fallen leaves and taller oaks with the odd silver birch. Gentle wind whispering through, and the lovely ferns at the bottom. Quite a bit of holly here. I did read that I think they had to take some control measures to tackle the holly in the past. And there is a Friends of Croham Hurst Woods group that do excellent work. Very much the lifeblood of these open spaces. We're on 149 and we're going to go along 149 and come back on 148. A bit more heather, some chestnut fencing. I don't know the exact purpose of that. It's enclosing something. Very odd shaped tree there, or X tree. Looks like it is no more, but where it's connected to that other oak. Look at this. Great sky today because there's some features in it. It's not pure blue, but it's just got some lovely cloud formations. Really shows it off nicely. So this rather basic plaque here, London Borough of Croydon, site of Bronze Age round barrow and an ancient monument. So in this area, and there's a slight mound there with the tree on top, but in this general area was the site of a barrow, a burial ground for Bronze Age man. So the Mesolithic period 5000 to 3000, Bronze Age came around about 2100 BC. This would have been a main settlement where they would have done their hunting with flint and the like. As times changed, as there was more of a farming and agricultural way of life, then the settlements would have moved down to where the land was more acceptable and useful for farming. So the whole kind of cycle changed as it has done over the centuries. But this was a settlement. There was actually a dig done here in the late 60s where they found evidence of a couple of ancient huts. And there have been other tools and that kind of thing found in the area too. So that helps to date this. So that's Bronze Age, but the finds and other evidence go back much further than that. Basically, as I say, to the Mesolithic period. So we're going to wander now over to the other side of this area, this clearing, and get some nice views of the local area and beyond. According to the map, the opposite part of the barrow is Breakneck Hill. So there is an option to take a steep path down, should you choose it. I'm assuming this is one of those paths. I'm not going to go down there. You can see it's pretty steep there, and we'll see the reverse of that when we come along the other side on path 148. More heather there. And then Graham has reserved the bench where we can have a look at the views over, well, Sanderstead, South Croydon, probably all the way over to Sutton and beyond. So there's one, this is the initial reveal view, and also another very steep drop here. Again, not going to try this one. I feel like I'm on the edge a bit here as the wind gets up. Apologies for any excess wind noise. And also another, I mean, these are like drainage channels in many ways, probably how these were formed many years ago, I would expect. But obviously they can be used as a path to clamber up should you so wish. And here we have a lovely panoramic view reaching all the way round, if I can get the best view, to quite some mileage over there into the distance. We have now left the breezy plateau there, making our way or continuing our way along path 149, and still mainly oak here, not the slightly stunted oak growth that we saw earlier, but slightly taller. What a lovely view that is through there. From the leaves on the ground to the leaves forming a canopy for at least another few weeks. Lovely. Now, I don't know if this is a good example. There's a bit of moss there, but it really is quite solid here, where this kind of pudding stone, this sort of natural cement formation has taken place. In fact, I had to double take, because this is at the base of sort of double oak tree there, and I actually thought initially it was concrete on the ground, but it just shows you how nature can do a good job sometimes of firming things up, and actually makes a nice path. Just be careful with the moss. Lovely view through there. Occasional glints of the sun on the lens. All part of the experience. In terms of the story for this place, the more recent story, so up until late 19th century, many people would come here and enjoy the area, not realising that it was private land. The ownership of the Annington estate and the Archbishops of Canterbury goes back many centuries. It was then sold on to the Whitgift Foundation, and they decided towards the end of the 19th century that they would like to develop the area. And what that would mean is that the very top, the very crown, the area we're actually in now, would be protected, but all of the lower area will be sold off for development. And there was uproar. There were groups formed, there were newspaper campaigns, people came out in all manner of protests. Nowadays you can think it would be social media and the like. And they were successful. So in 1901, Croydon Corporation bought Croham Hurst, and it has been, thankfully, an open space to be enjoyed by many, many people in that time, and hopefully for many years to come. I have to say, having learnt a bit about the area and experienced some of it through walks, etc., it's odd how much effort would have had to been put in to build houses on what are quite severe slopes all the way down to the surrounding roads. So I don't get that bit, but of course, where there's a will, there's a way. If they could acquire the property for a sensible price and then develop houses and that, money would have been made. But I'm so grateful that we are able, 120 odd years later, to enjoy Croham Hurst and go back to how people were enjoying it before all this kerfuffle between 1898 and 1901. More of that, please. So we're still on the spine. We've got some holly on that side, and then oak will never be far away, but we also have some silver birch populating this area. So it's a slightly different feel, and as you can see there's more low growth here, brambles and the like, whereas in those other areas where there was perhaps a different canopy, it was just leaves on the ground, it looked more open. So different feel, different soils, different erosion patterns maybe lead to a different outlook. So we talked a lot about erosion and how pebbles and the like and sand and whatever that starts at the top can work its way down. But here, we're still on a fairly flat area. We're not on a slope, but you can see examples here of where it's filled in the gap above the roots, and then it's a good 6 inches or so below that. So we're likely to see many more of these as we carry on the walk. We saw some on the way up, but I didn't really highlight them then. I suppose the other warning once more is to look down occasionally. I always tell you guys to look up, and you do see a lot by looking up, even in nature with these wonderful tree canopies, but you also have to watch your footing if you don't know the area well. and a bit more light getting through, and another kind of fall away just over the edge there. Silver birch dominating a bit more, and holly. Wonderful. So we have a slight descent here, not a descent as in argument, but a descent downwards. So we must be getting near to that point where we make a turn and pick up footpath 148 that will take us back to the starting point. So peaceful. I mean, yes, there's some traffic noise in the background. We're in Croydon, but there is a peace here, absolutely. This is rather lovely. I'm just going to very quickly look at this. I mean, it's almost like a proper built step, but like I was referring to earlier, this is obviously on a slope now. But wow. Stop here and reflect. Amazing. You really have to watch yourself on this particular area where we've just come round the corner. I just brushed some of these leaves away because there's fewer pebbles on display here, but almost looks like a lot of cement to keep it in place. It feels like it's got the potential to be very slippery along here if you aren't watching your step. As you've seen from some of my walks from a little while back, occasionally a slip did happen. So we've got some railings here, boundary railings, they look fairly old. And we've got signposts. I'm actually going to go around the other side. So we've got a footpath 150 and we've got 148, and we're going to be going along 148 for the next part of our walk, which is in this direction. Well, little fella, he's doing a bit of digging or something there. I hope he's okay. Give him oh, it actually just moved that twig out of the way. How wonderful. Lovely big bumblebee. We'll leave him be. I think there might be some very light cloud in front of the sun, but still, what a wonderful view. This is footpath 148, and we're going down a bit, although that may not be the end of it. I do believe there might be a little bit more slight hill climbing to be done before we get to the end. But yeah, there's something about these tall trees. We've been to Sequoia in California and that was quite something, but this, even there, look at that. We've got this group of three. Absolutely amazing. And a magpie in shot. Probably looks quite small on this lens, but look at that. The mighty oak. And I think we've got a little bit more brightness level on the sun now. That cloud may have passed. So this is the other side of Breakneck Hill. Well, we'll get to it. A little footpath sign there confirming we're on track. But this is just beautiful. And this is late October, so we're, I suppose, at the early stages of leaf fall. Although they did say that due to the conditions we've had this year, 2025, we may get a longer, more drawn out autumn, and I'm all for that. There's an occasional leaf floats down to the ground. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Just spotted this, and it looks like some kind of camp or den or something. Hopefully it's structurally safe. Or is it a temple of sorts where you go in and worship? Oh, quite nice, isn't it? There's a little seat in the middle of it, a little log seat. All seems to be based around one main tree, and then it's all kind of like a tripod effect almost going up there. Love it. Answers in the comments. The light hitting the mighty oak trunk there. These pathways have generally been really well defined. As I say, you do have to keep an eye out, but they're easy to follow, you know. Whilst not always easy, you can get a rough idea of the sheer face of the climb up to the top path that we came down, 149, and we'll see a bit more evidence of that further along. Another wonderful open view there. Again, wispy growth on the ground and the trees shown off in their glory. There's a little clearing area up here with a swing and a rope, which I won't demonstrate, not today, but also you get a clear view of the steep climb. This may be breakneck, or it's certainly nearby. But if you remember from where I was showing you the pathway pointing down, this is the sort of thing you face. So you perhaps slip slide all the way down, and then if you had to climb up, well, you'd know about it. So tree is leaning, the roots are up, and then rested and probably continue to grow a bit against the other one, and then the rope hanging down. In fact, there's two, another one behind it. May have even been three at one point, so there's another one hanging there and another one here. So this is the play area, and all the way up. Love it. Just calling off briefly here at the meadow. Little green area. There's some apples on the ground and acorns and things. I think an apple from a tree that's just ahead there. And another little bench. Nice little spot. Not too far from the road. There's cars whizzing along Upper Selsdon Road there, but it's still a nice little place to stop and breathe and reflect. And then we're going to carry on back to our path, back to the car, which is just up that way. Sometimes come across a bit bright on these lenses, but lovely the way these beech leaves have formed a carpet for us to walk up. Look at that. It's almost like they've been placed there, or it's been rolled out. Nature does some wonderful things sometimes. Usual thing where on the map it looks like a fairly straight path, and you might naturally assume depending on the type of map, but this is a foam one, that it's just a gentle straight line back, but actually it's a bit uphill and down dale. But all worth it. I'm not complaining. Slight intersection here, but if you took that path, it will go back up to the main pathway that we used at the beginning, 149. And this is the one we need to take with a slight climb to get back to where we started. One thing worth mentioning, so the navigation here is pretty good. As I say, you don't always see where there's a hill as such, but I've never had an issue getting a phone signal here, on Vodafone anyway, but which is good, because if you're in any doubt about where you thought you were or where you needed to get to, then your phone shouldn't let you down. Fingers crossed. Another beech leaf path. These look like they might have been down a bit longer. And my shadow. And a little house. Who lives in there? Love it. Still a very attractive pathway. Got some properties just to our left here. Sort of boundary of the Hurst. As we move towards the end of the walk. Still got some lovely sky there, silver birch trees as I get past the beach. But wonderful. And an aeroplane goes by. Just to add to the visual. Looks like an enchanted wood in there. Just love the way the light hits the tree trunks. Beautiful. So there we have it, Croham Hurst. What a wonderful place. I keep using the word wonderful, but well worth it. Well worth a visit. If you like the video, please hit like. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit subscribe. And if you'd like to support me for less than half the price of a frothy coffee per month, click join, and I'd be really grateful for that. So look after yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.